You only need to know me. I will be the one.
So I'm going to try and keep this review of Chapter 1062 short, hopefully. I've been rushing to wrap up this graduate business program and I'm almost done. I think I'll have some time to drop a bunch of videos in the coming weeks if I play my cards right. If only there were 6 of me like Vegapunk. I'm also going to bring a new format, a new type of video to the channel. I think I mentioned this, maybe last year or half a year ago. So stay on the lookout for those. I like for them to be more interactive, kind of. I also said I'd be dropping videos on the early spoilers, not the full spoilers, and yeah, we'll get back to that next week. Also, Joyboy Theories, a friend of mine, is dropping a book that in my opinion is on the level of Lord of the Rings. Star Wars, Harry Potter, all those other series out there that became legendary when finally discovered. The name of Joyboy's book is The Booms. And yes, this is Volume 1. There will be other volumes. I got to read this rough draft of Volume 1 and 2, and I can vouch that the book is incredible. My honest review, he didn't ask me to do this. I just wanted to share the news with you. And you can pre-order his book digitally on Kindle or request a hard copy or paperback from Barnes & Nobles. It will be available to read in November. Now, the cover of Chapter 1062 is interesting. If you remember, there was speculation over whether others had attacked Whole Cake Island aside from the Germa Vinsmoke, given this previous cover of a strange pair of legs or boots standing on the island. We now learn that Chocolate Town is covered in ice. Some think Aokiji has attacked Whole Cake Island given the massive amount of ice that is covering the island. After all, he has to prove himself useful to Blackbeard somehow, and we either have a weakened Big Mom that survived and made it back home, which would be no problem for an admiral like Aokiji, or we have a Whole Cake Island territory with no Big Mom at all, and of course, Katakuri and Oven were knocked out by Caesar's gas. But even if they recover, they don't stand a chance against Aokiji. It's likely that for whatever reason Kobe was kidnapped. It might be connected to Blackbeard finally making his move after the fall of Big Mom and Kaido. And just like the Navy or Marines weakened Whitebeard before Blackbeard made his move, we now see Blackbeard making some final moves, maybe with the fall of Big Mom and Kaido and maybe via Aokiji, going after their road poneglyphs. What are the chances Blackbeard or some of his crew visit the island or the land of Wano? It's also an interesting juxtaposition that we had an Admiral Greenbull visit Kaido's territory or former territory, and now we see Admiral Aokiji maybe visiting Big Mom's after the two of them fell. And it also ties into what Greenbull said about not coming to Wano if Kaido had still been there. Well, if Big Mom's not on Whole Cake Island, that might explain why Aokiji was willing to go. But aside from Aokiji, what are the chances Blackbeard or some of his crew visit the land of Wano as well? But Chapter 1062 begins where we left off, around the end of Chapter 1061, after Bonney told us she is here because she has business with Vegapunk, a callback to some foreshadowing from Oda that she was searching for Vegapunk, in this panel here on the screen after the end of the Marineford War. All of the moves various players of the worst generation would be taking, shown to us perhaps after the Marineford War. It'd be interesting to go back and look at how Oda foreshadowed these specific moments and whether we can glean anything as to other characters or Supernova. Bonney reveals that Kuma is her father and Kuma was made into a weapon by Vegapunk. I think some people had speculated this, and there is now some confirmation that Bonney is actually a young woman that can age backwards and forwards in time. And I would imagine her powers can do some other crazy stuff if they are the better version of Shinobu's powers. But we'll have to wait and see just how crazy Bonney's abilities actually are. They might be time-related, which would make them one of the few, if not the only other time-related abilities outside of Lady Toki. It is then revealed to us that there are 6 different Vegapunks, 6 different apprentices, because of how occupied the original Vegapunk is with his research. Vegapunk is so busy he needs replicas of himself to handle other tasks. There is also an impression from Nico Robin, and especially Zoro's reaction, that some of these Vegapunk clones are pretty strong, maybe. Specifically the supposedly evil Vegapunk number 2. I'm interested in getting to meet the other ones, the other Vegapunks as well. And we do find out that the other Vegapunks have their own free will and personality traits. In fact, Vegapunk's character, the real Vegapunk, I've seen some compare him to Pain from Naruto, each Pain having a different path of pain, or view of the world, but ultimately serving him. It'd be interesting to see if there is another traitor among the Vegapunks. Some sci-fi series dealing with the many versions of yourself or clones or copies often have one of them that wants to be the real one, the real you. The names of each Vegapunk might also help us predict what they will do in the coming chapters. If Vegapunk number 2 is evil and malicious intent, she probably can't be trusted. by the Straw Hats or even the real Vegapunk himself. Maybe the philosophy that was shared with Frankie that you should never be ashamed of the weapons or things you create applies here. Maybe the apprentice betraying or leading to the death of the master, Frankie accidentally in that way causing Tom's death, and maybe the evil Vegapunk causing the death of the real Vegapunk. I can imagine a scene of Vegapunk willingly dying in pursuit of science and knowledge, another iconic moment. Although I do think the original Vegapunk or one of the other Vegapunks will reverse what was done to Kuma, so we need Vegapunk to stick around. Unless we get a tragic backstory, a reveal that Kuma cannot be saved. He is trapped in this form. But traveling with Vegapunk to fix Kuma would reunite Luffy with the revolutionaries and maybe Sabo, tying in everything we've seen so far together. Unless the revolutionaries are on their way to Egghead Island as we speak. It's also worth questioning if Vegapunk is responsible for the creation of Weevil. Is it possible that Weevil will show up on Egghead Island as well? And this would tie into Marco and Ace and Sabo as well again, and so everything coming full circle. And I'm wondering if Vegapunk is a combination of all the other Vegapunks. Every path stems from him, and so maybe they all give us a window into the original Vegapunk. Or maybe whatever remains of Vegapunk's personality has been separated from those creations cognitively. And just like Nagato had the ability of every path of pain. Another thing I wanted to bring up to you guys is something that I was going to mention in the full review for chapter 1061, but I scrapped the video because I didn't have time. The word punk is very interesting, and I'm sure others have questioned this before. Also given the connection of Vegapunk as an inventor and mad scientist to this character who is also an inventor, and for whatever reason we still don't know much about him. And so the word punk reminds me of Eustass Kidd, who mentioned the man with the burned scar, being the key to the final road poneglyph. And like I said in my shorts video on Vegapunk, maybe Vegapunk is also interested in researching the poneglyphs and why they are indestructible. I think it's interesting that Punk Hazard connects with Punk, Vegapunk, and the word punk also ties into Eustass Kidd because Eustass Kidd has a lot of attacks that use the word punk in them. Punk Rodden, Punk Gibson, Punk Vice. Even the final move Kidd used on Big Mom was a punk move. Now it could just be related to Eustass Kidd and punk rock music, punk rock band music. But there might be more there given Eustass Kidd seems to be an inventor like Frankie who clearly has canon ties to Vegapunk, and Eustass Kidd's devil fruit powers take advantage of his engineering knowledge it seems. I'm not going to go so far as to suggest Eustass Kidd could be another Vegapunk clone, but could Eustass Kidd have some connection to Vegapunk or maybe MADS, the scientific research group? I would imagine Vegapunk is one of the few people that could reverse what was done to Killer, the effects of the smile that he ate. Vegapunk's territory has a lot of technology, a lot of advanced weapons. Just like Punk Hazard, and given the recent potential use of an ancient weapon, we know there are hints at Eustass Kidd and Killer maybe having a dark past and being perhaps impacted in some way by technology or weapons, as they were watching Caesar the Clown's weapon of mass destruction Smiley during Punk Hazard, and Killer questioned if Eustass Kidd had any interest and he, for whatever reason, did not. But it didn't hurt to know in his words. If Bonney had a reason to go after Vegapunk, do you think Eustass Kidd would as well beyond him maybe being the man with the burned scar? Since some believe Vegapunk was injured during the past explosion when the lab he was in with Caesar the Clown blew up. Law has a past beef with the world government as I detail in this video on the screen as to why Eustass Kidd, Law, and Luffy might form another alliance to take on the world government at the end of the story. Maybe Eustass Kidd and Killer were affected negatively in the past by the world government too. And if by weapons of mass destruction, then those weapons might have originally come from Vegapunk. And so, even if indirectly, Vegapunk's experiments would have also created Eustass Kidd, the other punk kid of his. And speaking of going after Vegapunk, we learn that the CP0 agents Lucci, Kaku, and Stussy are coming to kill Vegapunk, every version or number of Vegapunk, and we see they have Seraphim Kuma with them. I wouldn't be surprised if they succeeded in destroying some of the Vegapunks. Seraphim Kuma has no Delphu power, which suggests Seraphim cannot copy Kuma's Delphu power in particular, or maybe none of the Seraphim Pacifista can copy the abilities of the others. Maybe Kuma's Delphu ability is just difficult to transfer. I think the explanation might come when we find out what the Devil Fruits actually are here on Egghead Island. So far, Kizaru's Light, which is a Logia, and so a naturally occurring part of this world. So far, that is the only Delphu power that might have been replicated for the Pacifistas and Seraphim, which does lessen some of the hype around the Seraphim if true, but who knows. As for CP0, yeah, I'm going to hope Kaku, who fought Zoro during Enies lobby, I would love to see Kaku fight Zoro again, and hopefully Kaku is still just as strong, although difficult to see how that would be the case. Lucci is getting destroyed by Luffy if he can still use Gear 5, which remains to be seen actually. because that ability, Gear 5, activated by accident after Luffy supposedly died against Kaido. Luffy's awakening is still a mystery, and I wouldn't put it past Oda to nerf Luffy by making Gear 5 an ability Luffy can't just use freely. But the fact that CP0 is after Vegapunk because the world government and higher-ups, like the Gorosair 5 Elder Stars and potentially Imu, think Vegapunk knows too much, it puts him in a similar position now as Professor Clover from Ohara, as I also pointed out in one of my YouTube shorts on Vegapunk that you can watch after this. Knowledge of the Void Century, the forgotten history of the world, as well as the world government's true plans. It seems like Vegapunk has outlived his purpose. The government has what it needs now for the Great Cleansing. Vegapunk is not needed anymore, but what are the chances the revolutionaries arrive to help him out, for whatever reason, since I'm sure Vegapunk will have a heartfelt explanation for why he did what he did to the revolutionary Kuma. I'd also add that Rob Lucci's interest in whatever happened to Luzia Kingdom is interesting, and Stussy mentions people shouldn't pry into stuff like that, especially people as smart, as cunning as him, because it's essentially forbidden knowledge that he could be killed over, kind of like Zevik D. Rocks in Professor Clover. The fact that Lucci connects the targeting of Vegapunk to the destruction of Luzia Kingdom suggests to me that maybe what I mentioned in my video about Imu and Uranus might be right, that maybe whatever attacked Luzia was just an advanced weapon that Vegapunk created. Or if Uranus is some ancient alien technology like a UFO or a flying ship, maybe Vegapunk played a role in activating it, just like the Arc Maxim required Enel's power to activate. I guess then we could think of Egghead Island as Area 51. Is it possible to create more than one Uranus just like Pluton? Or does Vegapunk know exactly what destroyed the island? Whatever thing, object, technology, or creature it might have been. It seems like we might find out soon. But as usual, we will have to wait and see. And don't forget to like the video, comment with your thoughts below, share this with your friends, and subscribe. Also click the notification bell, and if you have a Twitter, feel free to give me a follow on there as well. As always, there is more to come. Until next time.